Okay, welcome to today's lesson. Today we are going to do an assignment together. We will do this dice game assignment. And if you haven't already tried it, I think you should begin by trying it yourself so you learn a little bit more from it. If you are not able to make it through the assignment, then you could watch this episode and learn how to do it. I think that's a pretty good order of operations. Anyhow, the task is creating a simple dice game where you have $1,000 to begin with, and you bet like $100, and then you throw a dice, and you make a guess what it will land on. And if you're correct, then you will triple your bet, and if you're not correct, then you will lose what you have bet. And then you play around a couple of rounds until you are satisfied with your score, and then you quit the game while on top. If you run out of money, then it is game over. Okay, I will jump right into it. I will create a file called dice1.c and enter a little bit of comments in the top and our main include file. I will also add a couple of more like unstd so we get the sleep function, and I will also need the stdlib.h so I can use getpid and the random numbers. Okay, and I will begin by creating a function actually, because we can't do much with this code unless we have a random function. So I will do something similar to what we did in the random episode. I will create a function called, let's call it random. I'm not sure if that's taken already, but we'll see. And then I will have a max limit. I will create a variable to make this look well so you can follow along a little bit easier. And I will call the rand function. I will modulo it to the max and add 1. And then I'll simply return x. So now we have a random function. Let's begin by looking at the assignment. We need to create a variable called balance and assign the value of 1,000. Okay, first we need to create the main function like this. Yeah. Okay. Balance, and it should be an int, so it can hold a number. I will set it to 1,000. And the next step is to ask the user to bet and read that bet into the variable bet. So I'll do these two together. So we need another int which we'll call bet, and we will print out to the screen, make your bet, and I will flush that in order to make it seen on the screen immediately. Okay, so what do we need? Ask the user to bet, then read it to the valuable bet, and we use scanf, so we can read that from the keyboard. Then we are done with that. Now, as it says here, code a couple of points of the instructions below, then compile the code and try it to program, then continue on with more coding points. And that's a really good point, because if you make all this at once, even if you're a skilled, experienced programmer, you will most definitely have a lot of errors. But if you make like 3 at a time and save and try it out, then it's much easier to troubleshoot. So that's exactly what we'll do. We'll compile this code. Now we got an error. Yeah, look at this. As I mentioned before, or as I suspected before, previous declaration of random. So some of the keywords in C are already taken by other libraries. So let's call this my. One second. Let's call this my random instead. Now it compiled just fine, and we run it, make your bet, 500, and then it exits, because this is all we have done so far. Okay, what's the next? I'll do these two at once. Ask the user for a guess between 1 and 6, and tell the user to guess 0 in order to quit. Read the guess into the variable guess. Alright, so we need another variable, which is an int. I'll make a little space here so we see that it is a different section. It's completely fine to have line breaks in C. Pretty much everywhere, not exactly everywhere, but close up to it. Okay, ask a user for a guess. Then we will have our printf again. Make your guess. 1, 0, and 0 means quit. So 1 to 6 and 0 means quit. That's possible to understand, right? And we don't need to flush it this time, but we will use scanf to read it into the guess variable. And then if the guess is 0, then quit the game. So we'll have an if statement. If guess equals 0, then return 0. We need to exit the game. And as you can see, I didn't have any brackets here. And that's because there's only one line of code connected to this if statement, and then you don't need those brackets. Okay, so let's save again and compile and run. Oops, there we go. Make your bet 500, make your guess 5, and then it's done. Now we should pause the game for 2 seconds, generate a random number. Because we have already prepared the random function, and before I forget, we should add this srand thing in here as well, so we don't get the same numbers all the time. And this should be on top of your code inside your main. You can have your variable declarations before it, but then it should come, and you should only call it once per program run. Okay, pause the game. Then we will do sleep2 and generate a random number, which we will store in a variable called dice. So we need an additional int variable, which we'll call dice. And dice will be equal to my random. That's the function we wrote. And we want the 6 to be the highest possible number. And let's print that one out on the screen so we can see what's happening a little bit. And let's try it out. 500, 5. It pauses for 2 seconds, and then it prints out what the dice landed on. Okay, so what's next? Check if the guess matches the dice. So it's another if statement. If guess, it says it like this. Check if the guess matches the dice. If they don't, subtract the bet from the balance. So in this case, it's easier to check if it's not equal to. If guess is not equal to dice, then we should lose money, right? And we should subtract the bet from the balance. And how do we do that? We do balance equals balance minus the bet. Because if we have 1,000 and we have bet 100 and lose, then it should be 900, right? 1,000 minus 100. We can also use the other method we discussed in an earlier class. Balance minus equals to bet. That's the same. It will reduce this variable by this amount. And I will keep these brackets here because I will add a couple of texts later on. Okay, so if this isn't true, if we actually won, and that will be our else statement, and what will happen if we win? If they do match, multiply the bet by 3 and add that to the balance. Okay, so we will take this in 2 steps. We will begin by multiplying the bet by 3. So bet equals bet times 3. And now we can try if this works, that I talked about last time, and I said it probably works. So this should be the same as bet equals bet times 3. So if we did bet $100, then our bet should be 300 after this. And now we only need to plus that to the balance. So these 2 lines should add those $300 to our balance. Now we should check if the balance is 0 and then quit the game. So if balance equals 0, I will print out game over. And exit the game. And now it's time to see what we have done this far. So make your bet like 100, make your guess 2, and I bet 2. I don't really see what's happening right now because we don't have any texts like saying how much our balance is. So let's add that. Printf balance. We put a $sign and then the amount. %d for an int, the value of balance. And where are we? If the balance is 0, quit the game. We have done that. If the balance is positive, loop the game to be able to play more rounds. Yeah, we should be able to play more than 1 round, which means we would loop almost our entire code. So if balance is 0, then it quits, which means we don't need another else statement here or another if statement. We can just put our code here because it quits if this is true. Okay, and we should loop this code. So let's start with where in the code we should add our loop. How much of this code do we want to loop? Variable declarations, we only do that once. The srand, we should only do once. What about balance equals 1,000? If we loop that every time, the balance will be reset and you can't win or lose any money, so not that. Make your bet. Yes, we should be able to make a bet every time. So right between here is where our loop should begin. So we can do a while one loop to loop everything. And I will jump out one step everywhere, which will make this code much easier to troubleshoot. It's a little bit tedious to do this, but it will be worth it later on. There we go. And there is where our loop should end. So all of this code will be, all the way here, will be looped all the time until we run out of money or quit the game. And now we should add a couple of texts. Throwing dice, congratulations, you lost, your balance is, etc. This one we have already done. We could better this a little bit. Dice results. And throwing the dice, let's put that before the sleep. Throwing the dice. Like this. And some congratulations. You won. Congratulations. And if we lost, let's just print. Sorry, you lost. Something like that. And your balance is already done. Throwing the dice, congratulations. Think that should be it. The only thing we have left is add some comments to your code. Okay, that's always good to do, because even if you understand all of this code, and you probably will understand it even a week from now, but if you go back 2 years from now, would you understand every bit of this code? Probably not. So comments is for your own good. This will create a random number between 1 and max. And we could add seeding the number generator, the random number generator, to be more specific. This code is probably quite self-explanatory. Maybe we could add something here. User presses 0 in order to quit. Something like that. Okay, let's save. And we compile and we run. Make your bet. 50 and 2. Throwing the dice, and the dice results 4. Sorry you lost, and the balance is 950. It works just fine when we lose. And we probably need to play a couple of rounds before we encounter a win. If we want to make this a little bit faster when we debug the code, we could disable the sleep directive. Ah, here we go. I bet 60. I had 800. I bet 60. And I guessed the number 6, and the dice landed on the number 6. and I won, congratulations, and now I have 980. And 60 times 3 is 180, which is correct. It works. Okay, so if I just make any bet and then I choose 0, the game ends. What if I use up all my money? I bet 1,000 on 6. Okay, I won. I bet 4,000 on 2. There we go. It landed on 4. I lost all my $4,000. Sorry, you lost. Game over. So our code is complete. So what have we learned today? We have learned to use all of the different parts of this beginner's course. And we have learned something else as well. Let's go into the code one last time. We do this and this and this. I think we have learned each and every different part of this code before. So what we have learned is how you use it all to make a big assignment. Now I hope you will try it one more time for yourself, the assignment that is, and see if you can't create this game on your own. And this concludes the current beginner's course. Perhaps I will add more lectures to the future, and I will start with the advanced course. You are welcome to join me. Thanks for today, and thanks for watching.